Daddy's girl gets revenge on greedy family. My phone buzzed, shattering the afternoon quiet, and I stared at the screen, a familiar wave of nausea washing over me. Half-sister one of my apartments flashed mockingly. The audacity of it all still managed to sting, even after years of calculated distance. How did this woman have the gall to ask this from me, and after everything? No matter how many times I block her number, she resurrects like a relentless hydra, each new message, email, or social media comment a fresh head spewing entitlement. I refuse. I always will. But do you understand why? To truly understand the depth of my resolve, we need to rewind, back to the day my childhood imploded. I was 6, and the world, as I knew it, ended in a hushed conversation in our living room. Mom sat me down, her face a mask of strained composure, and dropped the bomb. Dad was moving out. I remember the agonizing silence as he packed his things, Mom hovering nearby, radiating impatience. It felt like a slow, agonizing death, the death of my family. My mom didn't waste a single moment. Before the ink was even dry on the divorce papers, she married Steve, a man who invaded our home like a hostile force. Overnight, everything was different. My princess drawings, once proudly displayed on the fridge, vanished, replaced by Steve's rigid work schedule. My favorite cereal disappeared from the pantry, sacrificed to Steve's healthy breakfast obsession. It was like someone had taken my life and rearranged it just slightly wrong. Dad, bless his heart, sent regular alimony checks and tried to see me whenever his demanding business allowed, but his visits were always punctuated by urgent phone calls and whispered meetings, leaving me feeling like an afterthought in his life, too. Then, when I was 8, Lisa arrived, turning my already fractured world into a complete wasteland. I still remember standing awkwardly in the sterile hospital hallway, Steve beaming down at the swaddled bundle like he had conquered the world. That was the moment I became truly invisible, a ghost haunting my own home. They named her Lisa, and from that moment on, the universe revolved around her schedule, her needs, her every whim. Rachel, the baby's sleeping. Rachel, go to your room. Your mother needs to focus on the baby. Rachel, Lisa has a fever. Rachel, eat dinner in your room tonight. Lisa's fussy and needs quiet. I grew up with a roof over my head and food on my plate, but my bedroom became both my sanctuary and my prison, the only space where I could truly be myself. I'd spend hours there, burying myself in homework and books, desperate to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the house. Steve made no secret of his dislike for me. Late at night, I'd hear them talking through the thin walls of my bedroom, their voices hushed but laced with venom. She should be living with her father, Steve would sneer. She doesn't belong here. Look how she mopes around the house. She's making Lisa uncomfortable. We can't send her away, Mom would retort, her voice sharp with calculation. We need that money. Have you seen how much Lisa's dance classes cost? These whispered conversations, laced with contempt and resentment, taught me everything I needed to know about my place in that family. I wasn't a daughter, I was a paycheck, a means to an end, an inconvenient burden they tolerated for the monthly deposits my father made into their account. Every time I overheard them, another layer of ice formed around my heart, eventually becoming impenetrable. As I grew older, the distance between me and my mother's family widened into a gaping canyon. Every summer vacation became a stark reminder of where I stood in their twisted hierarchy. We just can't afford an extra ticket, Mom would explain, her voice devoid of remorse. But you'll have fun with your father. The truth was, even though our time together was constantly interrupted by business calls and urgent meetings, even though he looked at me with perpetually guilty eyes, I cherished those moments with Dad. I'm sorry, Princess, he'd say, his voice heavy with regret. The business is really taking off, and I need to be available. But look what I got you. And then would come the latest iPhone, the newest gaming console. I remember the day he gave me my first Mac, his eyes lighting up as he watched me open it. This is for all those weekends I had to cancel, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I know it doesn't make up for it, but it wasn't because of the expensive gift. It was the thought that mattered. The moment I returned home with any new gadget, the storm would begin. A MacBook, Lisa would shriek, her face turning crimson. That's not fair, I want one too. Tears would stream down her face as she threw a tantrum. Look what you started, Mom would sigh, crossing her arms and shooting me a look of pure resentment. The pattern was always the same. Lisa would throw a monumental tantrum, fueled by jealousy and entitlement, and I would be blamed for daring to exist and receive anything nice. One particularly bad episode involved an iPad Pro, leading to a meltdown that lasted 3 days straight. I hate you, she screamed at me, her voice shrill with rage. You always get better stuff. It's not fair. Mom finally snapped, unleashing her fury in an angry phone call to Dad that evening. Mark, this has to stop. These expensive gifts are causing problems in my household. Lisa gets upset. The next weekend, Dad picked me up, looking more serious than usual. Over chocolate milkshakes, he broached the subject. Rachel, honey, he started, his voice hesitant. Your mom called me about the gifts. My heart sank. I'm sorry, Dad, I mumbled, feeling a wave of guilt wash over me. I didn't mean to cause trouble. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand, his eyes filled with empathy. No, you haven't done anything wrong. But I think we need to be smarter about this. I won't be giving you any more expensive gadgets. I tried to hide my disappointment, focusing on his words. By the time you graduate high school, you'll be able to go to any university you want. My eyes widened. Really, but this has to be our secret. Don't tell your mom, or anyone else. This is just between us. A future that nobody could take away or demand to share. The day I graduated high school should have been filled with unadulterated joy, a triumphant culmination of years of quiet determination. But just a week later, I found myself sitting at our dining table, bracing myself for the inevitable. Rachel, Mom began, her voice sharp. Now that you've graduated, we need to discuss something important. I already knew what was coming. The way she'd been eyeing my room lately, the whispered conversations with Steve, it wasn't hard to guess. Lisa needs her own space now that she's 10, Mom continued, her voice laced with false sweetness. She's growing up. It's time for you to move out. I kept my face neutral, taking a slow sip of water. I'm going to college in the fall. College, Mom scoffed. We can't afford that, Rachel. You know our financial situation. The relief that washed over them was almost comical. Steve's shoulders visibly relaxed, and Mom's eyes lit up with cunning calculation. Well, she said, a predatory smile playing on her lips. That's good then. I spent the next day packing my life into boxes, stripping the walls of my room bare, the silence a deafening contrast to the turmoil brewing inside me. Through the thin walls, I heard them celebrating. Finally, Steve exclaimed, his voice laced with triumph. No more dealing with Mark's daughter, and the alimony payments will stop too. I know, Mom replied, her voice dripping with satisfaction. I was worried we'd have to keep her around longer. This worked out perfectly. Dad had taken a whole week off work, the first real vacation he'd had in years. As my hometown faded beneath the clouds, he squeezed my hand. I thought we could use some father-daughter time before college starts, he said, his voice filled with a longing I understood all too well. For the first time in years, his phone stayed off. We spent our days on the beach, building sandcastles and laughing like we hadn't in years. In the evenings, we explored charming seaside towns and ate ice cream under the stars. One night, as we watched the waves crash against the shore, he broke the silence. I'm sorry it took me so long to do this, he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. I leaned my head against his shoulder, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't known was possible. It doesn't matter, Dad, I whispered. This is what matters. College felt like breathing fresh air after years of suffocation. I moved into my dorm room that fall, armed with determination and the knowledge that Dad had my back, but I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet too. Rachel, you don't have to work, Dad insisted during one of our calls. I can send you a monthly allowance. I know, Dad, but I want to. It feels good earning my own money. Between classes, study sessions, and my part-time job at the campus cafe, my coworkers became my friends, my chosen family. I loved the rhythm of my new life, the early morning study sessions before my first class, the camaraderie of my coworkers. Dad's business was booming, and during holidays, I'd stay with him, finding a sense of belonging I'd never experienced before. We'd spend evenings in his home theater, watching classic movies and laughing until our sides ached. I have something special planned for when you graduate, he'd say with a mysterious smile, his eyes twinkling with excitement. Dad, paying for my college is already more than enough, I'd protest, but he'd just wave my concerns away. Every time I visited, the house felt more and more like home. I had my own room there, decorated exactly how I wanted it. Something I'd never been allowed to do in my mother's house. He even gave me a key, telling me I could come anytime, even when he was away on business trips. Meanwhile, on my mother's social media, my existence was practically erased. Her feed was a shrine to Lisa, filled with dance recitals, school events, and family vacations, all meticulously curated to paint a picture of perfect domesticity. Sometimes, a distant relative would innocently comment, "How's Rachel doing?" Haven't seen her in ages, but their inquiries were always met with vague, dismissive responses. She had no idea I was making the dean's list every semester, didn't know I'd been promoted to shift supervisor at the cafe, couldn't tell you what I was majoring in or who my friends were. My life had become a fill-in-the-blank space in her story, a void she chose to ignore. I threw myself into my studies, determined to make the most of the opportunity Dad had given me. Between classes and work, I even found time to tutor younger students in economics, sharing my knowledge and passion with others. My professors started talking about graduate school possibilities, and for the first time, I dared to dream of a future beyond my wildest imaginations. Then, one day, scrolling through Mom's Facebook page, I saw a photo of Lisa's 12th birthday party. The house was decorated with balloons and streamers, and Lisa was surrounded by friends, all beaming at the camera. "Our little princess is growing up so fast," Mom captioned the photo, her words a stinging reminder of my own forgotten childhood. Graduation day was bright and sunny, a perfect reflection of the hope and optimism filling my heart. After the ceremony, while families took photos and celebrated, Dad pulled me aside, his eyes twinkling with that familiar mysterious smile. "Close your eyes and hold out your hands," he instructed, his voice filled with excitement. I felt something metallic drop into my palm, followed by the crinkle of paper. Opening my eyes, I saw a set of keys with a small envelope attached. "What's this?" I asked, my voice trembling with anticipation. He simply grinned and nodded towards the envelope. Opening it, I found an address. "Your graduation present," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "An apartment in your name, back in your hometown, fully furnished and ready for you to move in." I burst into tears, throwing my arms around him. "Dad, this is too much." He hugged me tight, his voice filled with pride. "Nothing's too much for my little girl." The apartment was perfect, modern, spacious, and located in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood. I found a job at a local marketing firm and settled into a comfortable routine, a simple, peaceful existence free from the drama and negativity that had plagued my childhood. Then came the phone call that changed everything, shattering my newfound peace. The tests came back positive, the doctor said, his voice grave. "It's stage 3 pancreatic cancer." The next 2 years became a blur of hospital visits, agonizing chemotherapy sessions, and desperate prayers. I watched my strong, vibrant father grow weaker day by day, his body ravaged by the relentless disease. He fought hard. We both did, clinging to hope even as the odds stacked against us. On a rainy Tuesday morning, holding my hand, he took his last breath, leaving a void in my life that could never be filled. He was just 54 years old, robbed of a future that should have been filled with joy and laughter. I handled the funeral arrangements in a daze, numb with grief. I posted about it on social media, a simple announcement amidst the carefully curated snapshots of my life. The only response I received from my mother was a terse text message. "I'm too busy to attend my ex-husband's funeral. Lisa has a dance recital that day." Even in my grief, the callousness of her words stung. The reading of the will left me speechless, overwhelmed by the magnitude of Dad's generosity and the weight of responsibility that now rested on my shoulders. He had left me everything, his company, the house, several investment properties. His lawyer handed me a letter, a final message from my father from beyond the grave. "Dear Rachel," it began, his familiar handwriting bringing tears to my eyes. "I built all this for you. I'm sorry I can't be there to see what you'll do with it. Take care of yourself first, then others if you can. I love you always, Dad." Overwhelmed with grief and responsibility, I needed to find a way to honor him and his legacy. I found my own way to honor his memory, establishing a foundation to help cancer patients and their families, providing support and resources to those battling the same disease that had taken him from me. The Mark Anderson Memorial Foundation. The day we launched the foundation, looking out at the crowd of supporters, I felt a surge of purpose, a sense of hope amidst the pain. "No one should have to fight cancer alone," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "And thanks to the Mark Anderson Memorial Foundation, they won't have to." That night, alone in my apartment, surrounded by photos of Dad, I whispered, "I hope I'm making you proud." The company was thriving under my leadership, and despite the grief that still weighed heavily on my heart, I was still standing, stronger than I ever thought possible. My phone rang on a quiet Sunday afternoon, disrupting the peace. The name on the screen made my heart skip a beat. Mom. After all these years, she was calling me. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the answer button, battling with my inner demons. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Rachel, can you come over? It's important," she said, her voice sounding different, strained, older. Giving in to a momentary surge of familial obligation, I found myself walking up to my old house, a place that held so many painful memories. The familiar scent of potpourri hit me as Mom opened the door, and I barely recognized her. Her face was dramatically aged, lined with pain and resentment. In the living room, nothing had changed, the same worn furniture, the same ubiquitous photos of Lisa everywhere. Mom lowered herself carefully into her chair, her movements stiff and labored. "I need surgery," she announced, her voice heavy with self-pity. "Several surgeries, actually. My joints are deteriorating. Without treatment, I'll be crippled." She paused, her eyes fixed on me, calculating. "I heard about your inheritance from Mark," she continued, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "The company, the properties." She trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. The real reason for this reunion was clear. "We can't afford the surgeries," she confessed, her voice laced with desperation. "The insurance won't cover enough." I studied my mother's face, the same woman who couldn't even attend my father's funeral, the same woman who had treated me like an unwanted intruder in my own home. But underneath all that history, I saw a flicker of vulnerability, a hint of the woman she might have been. "I'll cover the medical bills," I heard myself say, the words surprising even me. Mom burst into tears, pulling me into an awkward hug, our first in years. "Stay for dinner," she pleaded, her voice thick with emotion. "We have so much catching up to do." Dinner was a strange affair, filled with forced smiles and uncomfortable silences. Between bites, Mom peppered me with questions about my inheritance. "So, how many properties did Mark leave you exactly? Is the company doing well? Are you selling any of the assets?" "The estate is quite complicated," I replied, my voice carefully neutral, deflecting her probing questions. Lisa watched the entire exchange with sharp eyes, her expression unreadable. As I drove home that night, I questioned my decision. Had I made the right choice? I had the means to help, and some small part of me still hoped that maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild some semblance of a relationship. The next day, I contacted the hospital to arrange payment for Mom's surgeries, ensuring she would receive the best possible care. Whatever happened next, I know I had done the right thing. The surgeries were successful, and I paid each medical bill without question, fulfilling my promise without hesitation. Within months, the invitations started coming, a constant stream of requests for my presence in their lives. "Rachel, come for Sunday dinner." "Rachel, we're having a barbecue." "Rachel, Lisa misses you." Each visit felt like walking on eggshells, navigating a minefield of unspoken resentments and veiled expectations. Mom would reminisce about my childhood, selectively remembering the good moments and conveniently forgetting the bad, rewriting history to fit her narrative. "We're finally a family again," she'd say, reaching for my hand across the table, her eyes glistening with crocodile tears. On Lisa's 16th birthday, I bought her the latest iPhone, top model, all the bells and whistles. Maybe it was an attempt to bridge the gap between us, or maybe I just wanted to give her something I knew she'd like, a peace offering after years of strained interactions. The party was a small affair, just the four of us. No friends, no other relatives. Mom had insisted on keeping it intimate, a carefully curated tableau of family harmony. Lisa unwrapped the iPhone with barely concealed disappointment. "Oh, thanks," she said flatly, setting it aside without even opening the box. She kept glancing at Mom, as if waiting for something more. "Rachel, sweetheart," Mom began, her voice dripping with false affection. "The phone is lovely, but we were thinking you could give Lisa something more substantial." I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth, a knot forming in my stomach. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Well," Mom continued, her voice carefully casual, "Lisa's graduating from college soon. Wouldn't it be nice if she had her own place? You have so many apartments, surely you could spare one for your sister." The room went silent, the air thick with unspoken expectations. I slowly set down my fork, my mind racing, trying to process the sheer audacity of her request. All those family dinners, the sudden interest in my life, the carefully orchestrated attempts at reconciliation, it was all a charade, a calculated manipulation to get their hands on my money. "I won't be giving away any of my properties," I said quietly, my voice trembling with anger. Mom's sweet expression faltered, replaced by a mask of cold calculation. "But Rachel, it's your sister," she exclaimed, her voice rising in pitch. "Surely your father would have wanted you to help her out." "Don't," I cut her off, my voice sharp with warning. "Don't you dare tell me what my father would have wanted." The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees, the air crackling with tension. Mom's face turned red with anger, while Lisa slumped in her chair, crossing her arms and glaring at me with undisguised resentment. "How dare you be so selfish?" Mom shrieked, her voice shrill with rage. "Your sister deserves." "No," I said again, my voice firm, unwavering. "What I deserve is to not be used for my money, not now, not ever." Mom's sweet facade shattered instantly, her face contorted with rage as she slammed her hands on the table. "You ungrateful little freak," she screamed, her voice filled with venom. "After everything we've done for you, you're just like your father," she spat, her eyes blazing with hatred. Selfish and heartless, Lisa shrank back in her chair, while Steve stood up, looming over the table, his face a mask of barely suppressed anger. But I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. I had built a life for myself, a life of independence and purpose, and I wouldn't let them take it away from me. "Everything you've done for me," I shot back, standing my ground. "Like treating me like an unwanted house guest in my own home. You were never part of this family. You were always in the way, always causing problems. And now you have all this money and won't help your own sister." I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, my heart pounding in my chest. Turning back one last time, I delivered my final verdict. "Don't call me again. Don't message me. Don't try to contact me through relatives. We're done." That was over a year ago. Now, I sit in my office, the afternoon sun streaming through the window, trying to focus on the task at hand. But Mom's messages keep popping up on my phone, a constant reminder of the drama I thought I'd left behind. They started coming a week after that disastrous dinner, a relentless barrage of guilt trips and veiled threats. Please, Rachel, we're family. Your sister misses you, we can work this out. Sometimes, late at night, I catch myself wondering if I'm being too harsh, if I should give them another chance, if blood is truly thicker than water. But then I remember Dad's words from his letter, take care of yourself first, and I know that I made the right decision. So that's what I'm doing. The company is thriving under my leadership, the Cancer Foundation is helping dozens of families, and my life is full of meaning and purpose. Yesterday, I received an invitation to Lisa's graduation, a glossy card adorned with her smiling face. Please come, it read. We can start over. I dropped it in the shredder without a second thought. Some people say blood is thicker than water, but I've learned that sometimes cutting ties is the only way to survive. Do you think I handled this situation correctly? Was I justified in cutting off all contact with my mother and sister after their demands for my inheritance? Should I have given them another chance, or was I right to prioritize my own well-being? I'm genuinely curious to hear your opinions and perspectives on this complicated family dynamic.